Okay, hello again, everybody. So I'm back here with Alyssa.
Hi.
Yeah, we did some stuff before. We've done a couple of movie
Mm-hmm.
reviews and just talking about our favorite movies of a given year, um,
Yeah.
which is really fun. And now we're gonna do sort of this. I started this sort of podcast series where basically I kind of take two films from either the same director or same thematic premise, or they feel like they'd be good to watch together, and then we kind of talk about them. And yeah, I wanted to do these two films. So the Earrings of Madame D and Letter from an Unknown Woman. These are both films by Max Ophüls, um, and they're both pretty similar, I think. They're
Mm-hmm.
kind of tragic love stories where there's a woman who's the lead character, and I really like Max Ophüls' style of filmmaking, and I really like these two films. And yeah, and you agreed to talk about these films with me, which is really exciting. And yeah,
I was excited because I had not seen either of these films beforehand, so any chance to watch new films, I'm going to take it. Or new
yeah,
to me films. These are not new films by any means. They're from the 40s.
yeah,
But and I had never seen any films by Max Ophüls. Ophüls.
yeah,
We heard two different
yeah,
pronunciations, so forgive us if we
yeah,
butchered it.
yeah.
But it was
Unfortunately, we
really
don't speak
interesting.
German.
He is German.
Yeah,
But it was just so interesting to watch these two films, especially very close to each other, and see how they're similar, how they're different.
yeah. So why don't we start by talking about Letter from an Unknown Woman?
Okay.
Start with that film. And so this film was so of the two films. So one of them, Letters from an Unknown Woman, was made in America, the American kind of
Yes.
studio
It
system.
was a Universal Pictures film.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to see sort of how he makes that film that way, and then like kind of
Mm-hmm.
Earrings of Madame D when he's in Europe. Um, because both of these films, again, like I said, there's a lot of thematic similarities, but you kind of see maybe there was some other structures at play, maybe
Yeah.
that kind of were tinkering with some of the things that he was trying to do. So yeah, this film. So let's see. So the star is Joan Fontaine,
Mm-hmm.
and
And Louis, I don't know if he's French. I just started playing a French spin on his name.
yeah,
Louis Jordan.
Jordan. Yeah, something like that. Um, and that's the other thing too. A lot of his films, like, there's some type of European, I don't know, adventure or something. Like
Yeah.
even if it's like an American film, they go to Europe. Like in this film, they're kind of in Europe, and then they move to Austria, and it's a very kind of European experience, which is very cool to get that perspective. Yeah, so this film. So, what'd you think of this film off the bat, Alyssa? Like, was there anything that really kind of took you in, or anything that initially your thoughts came to?
I really, really enjoyed this film. And it's very brisk. It's only 87 minutes. And Joan Fontaine is wonderful in this film. Just playing not Linda, Lisa. Why was I saying Linda? I think it's her last name that was, I was combining the first and last name. Lisa. She's just so good.
Yeah, she's great. She's really great, and it's interesting too because like she plays someone who's like at the beginning she's playing like a teenager,
Yeah, and
and
she's
then
in love
later,
with this man, and then
yeah,
they keep meeting up.
yeah. So she basically falls in love with him. He like moves in when she's like a teenager, and she's like in love with him from afar, right?
And, like, he's a popular musician at this point.
Yeah, he's like doing tours to play piano.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a very well known like composer basically.
Yeah.
Um, and so she like immediately has a crush on him. She's very infatuated with him because like at the beginning they're moving in all of his stuff, and they're like moving a piano into his apartment, and she's just like super curious about it. And then there's all these scenes where she's like, oh, I feel like I needed to be more cultured to like you know be around you or whatever, or to have a chance with you. So she's like going to the library and like studying classic composers,
Yeah.
which is very kind of cute. And yeah, so and the way the story is framed is like it's like basically told in flashbacks in a way. So she sends a letter to him about herself and about what happened to her. And he's reading it from a sort of different point in time.
Yeah.
Like he's a different person than the person that we see at the beginning of the story, where he's a very young and exuberant and he's like doing all this stuff and he's like a well-known artist. And which is interesting to see because she has this very kind of rosy view of him, right?
Oh yeah, she does. It's very innocent, but she's just starstruck and in love with him. But he's not the same particularly.
Yeah, he's a little frivolous, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's just very much, I wouldn't say he's a playboy, but, you know, he's used to having women's attention. He's a very dashing man, very famous, and he's used to people being like, Stefan!
Yeah.
And then this little innocent teenage girl is like, oh my god, I love you so much. She doesn't actually say that, by the way.
Yeah. She it's kind of interesting, like, how coy she plays it, right? Because, like, she's almost, like, expecting her whole life that at some point they'll be together, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's from her perspective, it's true love that we're going to get together no matter what happens in our lives.
I mean, she even tells a suitor a few years later that she's already engaged.
Yeah.
When she's not actually. But in her mind, she's going to be with Stefan.
Yeah, that's a really great scene. That's a really great scene. Because, like, this is a really kind of tragic love story, right?
It is. It's very sad.
It's a really tragic love story. Because, so at some point, then Stefan was like, was he moving away? I think he was moving, or she was moving away.
I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah, it's one of the two. I believe it was she's moving away because her mom married some rich guy, and they're like, we gotta move. We're gonna move to Austria, so that's it.
Yeah, it was her moving.
And she's like, oh my god, I can't move because I'm gonna be away from Stefan. I have to be with him. And then she waits for him, like, at his apartment. She's just like waiting because, like, she's like, I'm gonna see him, and he's there with some other girl, like just another girl that he met probably at some event, and she's heartbroken. She's like, oh my god, he's with someone else right now. This is just not meant to be. And she kind of moves on. And then they have this chance encounter. So they have this date that they go on.
And again, she's totally swept off her feet. She's like, we're going to get married. We're going to live together for the rest of our lives.
That date is so cool, right?
It is.
It's so cool. And I'm sure, like, you know, the whole thing is told from her perspective, and it's very romantic. It's almost like that meant to be kind of thing. She's been trying to have this thing happen for years of her life. She even, like, basically had almost been stalking him in a way.
Yeah, you'd say you call it stalking nowadays.
Yeah. So they were basically both in the same town for a while, and she would wait outside where he was staying or something.
She'd wait outside his window, hoping he'd look at her.
Yeah. And one day he does. He's, like, crossing the street, and there's some people, you know, singing in the streets, like, winter. And he's just like, oh, hi. And they just kind of, like, strike up a conversation, and then they go to dinner, and then they have a series of other adventurous kind of things they go on. They go on a dinner date, and then they go on this little kind of, I don't even know what you would call that thing. It's like an indoor, you know, the thing where it's like, oh, now you're in the Swiss Alps, and now you're in France.
Exhibition?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like they put you in this little fake booth, like you're in a train, and then they have there's a guy on, like, a little scooter, and it makes the picture kind of move, and they're just, like, in there, and she's, like, obviously having the time of her life. And then they go to dinner, and there's, like, a band playing, and then he plays piano, and she's like, one of my favorite shots, like, ever is, like, when she's, like, at the piano watching him play, and she's just, you know, she's like, oh, I can die happy. But then at the end of this date, he's like, oh, I have to go off and do this thing in another country, and I have to play this, this big thing, but I'll get back to you. I
He's
promise
like,
I'll get back.
I'll be back in 2 weeks. And she's like, okay, 2 weeks. And he never comes back. Well, I don't say he never comes back. He does not come back.
Yeah. Yeah, they basically don't meet again. But then what's even crazier is like then she gets pregnant from their meeting.
Yeah, well, at first you see a sign with her name on it, and there's curtains, and then they pull the curtain back. She's in bed, and they're talking about how she's pregnant. They're trying to get her to say the name of the baby's father. She's like, no, I don't want to bother him with this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy story. But yeah, at the same time, he doesn't see the relationship the way that she does.
No.
For him, it's just this thing. It's just another person that he's met. For her, it's like the love of her life. But it never goes the way she actually wants it. But she always has that kind of, like that faith or that positive outlook. Like, oh, at some point it'll be good. At some point it'll work out. But it's just not now. Yeah, and that pregnancy scene was another interesting one that she wouldn't say that it was his child. But
then she names the baby after him.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she moves on. She moves on with her life.
She gets married to this very well-off man, Johan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've moved on. And what's interesting too is she's like, her child doesn't call him dad.
No, it's sir.
Sir.
Which he was, I believe she said they got married when he was 9 years old. And her husband, she told her husband about what happened and who his dad was and all that. And of course her husband's like, it's just a fling. I don't have anything to worry about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But we get another chance encounter. They're at an opera and he's there. And she she's like, oh my God.
And her husband sees that he's there too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so she tries to leave, and then they have another, and because again, another whole thing is like the whole time she's like, oh, I want him to remember me, to remember what we had together, because then it would mean something, right?
And he never remembers her. Every time they meet, he's like, oh, a new person.
Yes. Yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad. Yeah, and so then he's kind of like, oh, I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't remember what
they had. Did you attend one of my concerts or something?
Tears. Heartbreak.
But she still has this hope even after that. Like, she gets in the carriage and her husband has seen the whole thing, and he's like, if you walk away from me, you're leaving everything behind. He's like, there's supposed to be honor and decency in a marriage, but you could tell she's already ready to leave him. She wants to go be with Stefan Stefan. They say it both ways in the film, so it's just choose which one you prefer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see her go to his apartment, and she gets there, and she thinks he remembers her, and he's offering her champagne. And then as he keeps talking, she realizes he does not remember who she is, and she was going to tell him all about how he had a son. She's going to bring Stefan Jr. to live with him so they could be a family. But when she realizes that he doesn't remember her, she leaves. Mm-hmm. And that's sad.
It's super sad, yeah.
And then something happens with her son that's even more sad than that.
And the other thing, too, I think that they do a really good job, too, of, setting up, again, that this is true love. So she's married to some really rich guy. Mm-hmm. And Stefan, when they meet again, he's not a world-renowned pianist anymore. He's just a dude.
Yeah, he's retired.
He's fallen on hard luck, but she still loves him.
Mm-hmm.
She still loves him. So it's not about him being famous. I mean, that was probably a part of it. But she loves him for him. It's not about anything else. She's willing to leave behind the rich guy to be with the person that she's always loved. And she risks it all for him. And then, like you're saying, the ending gets extremely tragic. Once we find out, how this letter was sent why it happened, and it's like, oh my god. Wow. So yeah, this is one hell of a movie. I absolutely adore this movie, and it sounds like you like it too.
Yeah, it didn't go the way I was expecting, but I mean, I should have expected it because I'd watched the other movie before this. But it starts off happy. You see her, having a crush on this guy, and then it just becomes more and more sad.
Yes.
But it's so well constructed.
Yeah.
And Joan Fontaine and Louis Jourdan are fantastic.
Yeah.
I loved the dresses they put Joan Fontaine in this film because they're just they pop, even in black and white, they pop.
Yeah.
I do think, though, as you were mentioning before, since this was an American release, it was so short. I feel like probably he wanted, having seen the other film, he probably in his mind probably had this plotted out a little bit more with more story. But since it was Universal, they wanted a short film, cut to the chase. But it still works.
Yeah, it still really works. Yeah, because like these two films are very, very similar in terms of, and in Madame D, there's a little bit more in the middle where there's more character stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if there was stuff with Stefan's character that got cut.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all either.
Like where we see how he got into the predicament he was in.
I would have loved to have seen that, by the way, but I'm sure that does not exist anymore.
Yeah. It's in a salt mine somewhere.
Or just, deteriorated beyond belief and they can't restore it.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
It is sad, yeah. Yeah. So what did you think of Max Ophüls in terms of his directing style? Anything stand out to you?
I notice he really focuses on the women. And
yes.
But not in a very, not like most male directors do, not in a voyeuristic way or a pervy way or anything. He just, he frames them as a person who is feeling all these different emotions, they're going through things. He actually makes them look better than men. He frames them as being more honorable than the men, even though, in Letter from an Unknown Woman, she's in love with Stefan, whatever you want to call him, the whole time, and you're like, oh yeah, she's gonna leave her rich husband for him, and the rich husband, does he have feelings for her? Probably not like amazing, incredible feelings, but they've been together and he's close to her. But you still like want her to get her happy ending.
Yes.
And then when she doesn't, you feel crushed.
You feel crushed, yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I really totally agree, and I like the way that the stories are framed so much about these female characters. They're the absolute epicenter of the story. And another thing too with Max Ophüls is he was a very strong practitioner of the long take before it was popular.
Yeah.
There's one scene where in this film where so it's Linda, right?
Lisa. I threw you off with Linda when I said it.
Yeah, no problem. So Lisa's talking to that other military guy, and he's very strongly flirting with her, and the two of them are walking together, and it's all done in one really long take. That's really nice. It's a beautiful shot, and he does. There's a few more we'll see in Madame D, but he was a very, very strong, proficient usage of those types of long takes. Before it was really popular and even easy, because back in the day, your camera was like a car. I mean, it was very heavy. In order to do something like that, you needed to have 3 people pulling it, plus a bunch of other technical stuff. Plus, it makes lighting even harder, and lighting was extremely hard at the time. So to pull that stuff off was very difficult, and it was just very cool to see that, because then another thing when you do these long takes is you allow the character to be the most dominant thing, because you have to let the scene play out. And so there's a lot of allowing scenes to play out by using those type of techniques. And that stuff, I mean, that became very, very influential for tons of directors. Use those type of long takes in their films. And again, he was one of the guys who pioneered it. Without him, we wouldn't get the Spielbergs and Scorseses and the Paul Thomas Andersons and the others. I'm thinking of now, Orson Welles, stuff like that. It started here, so.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't seem to know who Max Ophüls is, which is kind of sad because these two films are brilliant, and I can't wait to watch more of his films. And he was such a pioneer, but people don't realize it was this guy, this man, who pioneered it.
Yeah, totally. Totally. It's kind of a crazy thing. I feel like in art sometimes it's not even really being the first person. It's just being the person who gets known for the thing, popularizes it. Because this guy was very cutting edge, and the films are very good. But like when we talk about Madame D, that film was kind of had to be resurrected, which is kind of crazy to think about. So yeah, I mean, he's a very, very interesting filmmaker and storyteller. So so I guess any last thoughts about Letter from an Unknown Woman?
I'm still just very sad about how it ended.
Yes,
because I'm like, this was not a happy ending at all.
The ending is like really kind of an out of nowhere gut punch because again, you have this whole thing where it's a letter, so you're like, okay, I think I know where this is going. I think I know, maybe at the end there's going to be some kind of positivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the opposite.
There's nothing, and it's a little too eerily similar to today. I'll just say that in one aspect, because there was a certain carriage on the train that had to be quarantined.
Yeah.
Because of typhus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's such a great like thing to pick up, because that's totally a perfect way to frame this in a 21st century kind of thing. I guess the equivalent would be like, it'd be like an email or something. Like, oh, we had to complete this email, but this person was emailing you from the hospital.
But also another similarity is there are a lot of people, when they see a celebrity, they're like, oh my god, I'm going to be with them. I'm going to marry them. They'll notice me for sure. I mean, they don't get as far as she did with, actually having a date with the person. But, I mean, the crushes on celebrities are very much a thing now. Pretty much everyone has a crush on at least one celebrity. And back in that time, he was a celebrity.
Absolutely. Because this takes place sort of, it's like, I think they say it was like 1880s.
Yeah, the film was released in 48, I believe, 1948. But yeah, this was the story took place in a much earlier time.
And at that time, absolutely, like people who played concerts, pianists, I mean, there would be, stuff in Paris where they'd have people come from all over Europe, would come and play piano, and then people would be like, oh, Franz Liszt is playing piano in Paris at this cafe. And people would pack into it. So yeah, they were rock stars of their time, pretty much. And the harder thing too is like getting a hold of these people. So like she had to be even more infatuated, because it's like, I'm someone who actually met this guy. Most people just dream of meeting this guy. I've met him and I know him, and I have a chance.
And then she ends up having a child with him.
Yeah, it's got to feel like fate, or destiny, or something.
But in his mind, she's just another girl that was a fan of his.
Yeah.
And every time they meet, he thinks she's a different person, so a different fan. Yeah,
that's so sad too, because that's such a poignant point where she even writes in the letter, I was hoping you'd remember me, but you never did.
And she sent him pictures of his son, said that she wished that he could have been in his life, all this kind of stuff. And then you see Stefan ask his butler, I'm assuming, he's like, did you remember her? And he was like, he didn't speak. And then he wrote her name down on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so sad.
It's like the butler remembered who she was and her name, but you didn't.
And by the way, the end of the film, Stefan is going to a duel with
her husband. Yeah.
So that's like him taking responsibility in a way for what he
Yeah.
did. He's going to go off and I guess, and as we see from the other film, he's not even going to get the first shot.
No.
Because he's not the offended party.
No, he is not the offended party.
So that really is him going off to die, basically, for his sins or whatever, however you want to put it. You know, wow, yeah, what a tragic movie.
I mean, pretty much. I guess it's a spoiler, but it's an old movie. Everyone dies, besides the husband.
Besides the husband, yeah. So
because their son went into the quarantine, the carriage car. They moved him out after they're like, "Oh no, you're not supposed to be sitting in here," but he catches typhus anyway.
Yeah.
And dies, and then she catches it from him.
Yeah.
And that's when she wrote the letter to Stefan, explaining everything about how she loved him for all this time, how they had a son together, and that's why he's reading the letters, because she has died, and you see on the letter that it's from the hospital where she died, saying that we believe this is for you because the patient was saying your name.
Oh, that's even more, because so like one of the last things she said was his name, basically, before she died. Crazy.
So she loved him until the day she died.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, and he finally gets it at that point. He finally understands.
Yeah, he starts crying.
Yeah, he starts crying. He finally, but it's too late, and she's dead. His son, who he never knew he had, is gone. And it's super tragic, but it's sort of like the frivolousness. I think that's kind of one of the themes of it. Is like, you can't treat love frivolously.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just like go in and out of people's lives as if they don't have meaning, because
people have feelings, and
yeah,
what you do affects other people's lives.
Yeah, and he's really giving something up. Like, he doesn't understand that, you know, he could have had this different life with her.
Yeah.
But
he could have been with his son. And they could possibly still be alive at this time if he had chosen a different path.
Yeah. And he could have been happy. He was very unhappy. I mean, they don't really go into it, but you can tell he's not happy.
I mean, I'm sure he was, basking in the fame when he was a pianist, but since he's retired, there's nothing going on with him. A couple people noticed him at the opera, and they're like, "Oh my God, let me shake your hand." But other than that, he's just a regular person now,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, one hell of a movie.
It's really good. It is very difficult to find. It's not streaming. Is it on the Criterion Channel, did you say?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I think, I don't know what happened with this movie, to be honest, in terms of the rights to it. Maybe there's some kind of complication with it. Yeah, unfortunately, it is kind of hard to find. I think it's probably because Universal they don't really have a service.
They don't, actually.
So I don't know what they do with their back catalog of stuff. Maybe just sit on it.
I don't know if you can buy this physically by any means.
There's a Blu-ray.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of rare, but there is a Blu-ray out there that exists. But this does feel like there should be
a Criterion edition or something of it.
100%. Yeah, 100%. There should be some new version of this film out there. More people should see it. It's great. Cool. Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about the earrings of Madame D. ...
And you find out why it's titled that in the film.
Very cheeky title. So this film. So who's the lead actress? This is another fun name.
It's Danielle
Darrieux, I believe is how you would say it. I believe. I don't know. I don't speak French. I don't speak German. I don't speak French. So I'm sorry. Now she is magnificent in this movie.
She is. She's incredible.
She's incredible in this movie. And from what I read, basically, Ophüls was like, she has to be the person to star in this movie. Period.
And by the
Or
way,
it's like
this movie is in French. Letter from an Unknown Woman was in English. This movie is in French.
Yeah.
Which to me is just incredible because he was German. And then he makes a film in English, a film in French. I haven't seen any of his other films, so I don't know what languages they're in. But just the ability to be able to direct in multiple languages.
Yeah, it's and he's also highly involved in the script. I believe in both of these films.
I believe he's credited as the writer, which Letter from an Unknown Woman was based off a novel.
Yeah.
So he shares the writing credit with the author.
Yeah. So, yeah, this guy, I mean, it's very impressive. I mean, you know, again, Europeans, they're unfortunately us country bumpkin Americans. We know English, and that's it.
We're this like, subtitles.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I was like, I watched the dubbed version of Squid Game. Like, what do you mean?
I actually did watch the dubbed version of Squid Game.
No shade at all.
No. Whatever you prefer, because I know some people subtitles can't be hard to read. Okay, I will admit that.
Yeah, I watched a fan screening of West Side Story, and that movie has no subtitles, and there's not a lot of Spanish, but there is Spanish spoken, and there are times where important information is put across in the film in Spanish with no subtitles. Now, I mean, you get what's going on. But there's a lot of like, well, people
unless
are maybe
know Spanish, you don't know what they're saying.
You don't know what they're saying, and you just have to pick up from the body language to understand the context. And it's like, you know, but you know, again, there's tons of people that speak multiple languages, right? Who can read and write in multiple languages.
Which I'm always impressed by.
Yeah.
I wish I was bilingual or trilingual or, you know, all the linguals.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wish I was, what do they call it? Polymath? Whatever. I think that's a term. Some of these
I believe so.
Things. Yeah. People that are got a lot of expertise. But anyway, so this movie is all about this character, Madame D. blah, blah, blah. We don't know who. Mm-hmm. And it all starts with her selling these earrings.
Which, the opening is just stunning.
The opening is insane.
She's going through all of her clothes and jewelry. She's trying to find something to sell. You don't know why she's trying to sell it at first. And she's going, I'd only get 20,000 francs for this. And she's like, oh, I can sell these earrings because they're mine.
Yeah. This opening shot is so amazing. Like, it is absolutely breathtaking. Everything about it just is cinema at its highest level possible.
I mean, you see every single thing that she owns is luxurious.
Yes.
It's gorgeous. I mean, she's just acting very, you know, nonchalant about it. Like, oh, these are just my regular clothes, you know.
Yeah.
They're not important, but then she doesn't want to part with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she finds the earrings. She's like, they're mine. I can get rid of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love this shot because it's like, it tells you everything you need to know about her, right? She's very wealthy. She's got all this stuff. She's got fur coats. She's got fur hats. She's got
silk dresses.
Yeah. And she's very beautiful. Like, we see this great, at some point, the shot moves and we see her in the mirror and she's like trying on different stuff. She's like, oh, maybe I should sell my cross. She has this massive, like, golden diamond cross.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I can't get rid of it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then finally she's like, okay, yeah, I'll sell the earrings. And then she goes to this church and she prays to the saint. Oh, please, you know, let him
let him buy my earrings.
Yeah. And this whole situation with, we see that she has these patterns of behavior that she uses to kind of get what she wants, and she's very kind of like, she's scheming about certain things. And then go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, which when you're watching the film at the beginning, you're like, why does she need money? She has all these diamonds and jewels and silks and furs. Why does she need money for?
Yeah. And so basically we kind of learn she's in debt. She has some debt. But yeah, she goes to this jeweler to sell, and so that's the guy that her husband bought them.
Yeah. I mean, they were custom made for her.
Yeah, crazy. And so he's like, well, I could maybe give you this much and blah, blah, blah. And she's like,
tell your husband, though. And then she has this penchant for faking fainting.
Yes. So she does a fake, like,
Which
and she's like, oh my God, someone.
Like, he's like, okay, I'll give you the money. I won't tell your husband.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. And she's off.
She's completely fine, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, she's walking normally after that. Doesn't seem phased at all by fainting.
Yeah, it's so funny. So you could tell she's really good at kind of getting her way, and she's really kind of cunning at like being a woman in this kind of man's world, right?
Yeah, using everything she has to her advantage.
Yeah, but she's always able to find a way to get what she wants. At least she thinks she can, right?
But then the butterfly effect happens. Which is so interesting in this film, how it plays out.
Yeah, these things exchange hands a number of times. So I forget exactly what the second pin drop to happen is in this scenario.
The jeweler is asking her how she was going to explain the disappearance of the earrings to her husband. She said, I'll find a way. They go to the opera, and she's like, oh no, my earrings! Where'd they go? They're missing. And they keep telling her, you didn't come here wearing earrings. She's like, yes, I did. I swapped them for the emeralds. So her husband's looking all around the booth that they're in. He goes outside, and he reports it as a theft. And now it's in the newspapers that her earrings are missing, and the jeweler sees it, and he's like, oh no, this is bad for business. So he contacts her husband and tells him, hey, your wife sold me these earrings back. I thought you knew about it. And the husband buys them back.
Yep.
But he doesn't give them back to his wife. He gives them to his mistress.
Yeah.
Lola.
Yeah, Lola, yeah. So, and this is a crazy predicament because, like, again, it's these crazy machinations because it's like, it's almost like, how in Forrest Gump was always in the right place, right time. These earrings are in the right place at the right time.
And it kind of just, everything mirrors each other because Lola racks up a gambling debt when I forget which country she went to. So she sells the earrings, and then they're bought by a baron. Yeah. She went to Constantinople, which is Istanbul now.
Yeah, Istanbul, yeah. That's where she was gambling and stuff.
And then the baron comes to, they're in France, right?
Yes, assume. I believe, yeah.
The baron comes to France and he sees Madame de at the airport, and he's like, that woman's beautiful, and he pursues her.
Yeah.
And then you see them fall for each other. She's trying to hide the affair from her husband, but he knows the entire time.
Yeah.
And then Baron Donati is like, I have a gift. I bought this and I was going to save it for the right person, but you're the right person. They're the earrings. So she has them back.
So they're back. They're back, yeah. And there's this really beautiful sequence of like when they're falling in love, or at least how they're, how it's playing out. It's like this montage of them dancing at these different galas, balls, whatever you want to call it. And they're just dancing and like, is she in a different outfit every time?
I think she wears the same dress in some of them, but some of them she's in a different dress.
Yeah, because again, like they dress her very well in these films.
Again, yeah.
This film, yeah. She is like very elegant, very beautiful, very accentuated.
Always has jewels and gloves and furs on.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just this great montage of them dancing and then falling. And he's like, oh, it's been so long. She's like, oh, it's only been 24 hours since we've seen each other.
Yeah. And then instead of telling him that she loves him, she says, I don't love you. But he knows that means that she loves him.
Yeah. 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 And so they go on and on and on. And yeah, like you said, she gets the earrings from him now. And she's like, oh, okay, how am I going to make it seem like I just lost them. What can I do?
Yeah, she doesn't realize her husband had found them and given them to
Yes.
another woman. So they're getting ready for another gala ball type of situation, and she's like, oh no, these gloves I'm wearing, no, they don't go with this dress. I have to go change.
Yeah.
So she goes and gets these gloves and drops the earrings in the glove, and she takes a while. So the husband comes into her bedroom. They have separate bedrooms, and he's like, what's taking so long? And she's like, I'm just trying to find the perfect pair of gloves. I'll wear these. And then as she picks them up, the earrings fall on the table, and she's like, oh my gosh, my earrings.
Who would have known? They're here. Now, she thinks that this is like the perfect way to fix the situation, but again, he knows he gave them to his, side woman.
Yeah, but he doesn't realize she sold them in the after she got them. So he's like, oh my god, these are back.
Yeah. So now it's become a problem for him in a way. Because he's like, how did they get back? Did she sell them to someone else and then they got back? It's like, how? Someone's lying, right?
Yeah.
Someone's lying. And then later on, basically, the whole affair kind of gets put out into the open, right?
Yeah, and the husband is, which Baron Donati knew the whole time she was married to the, what's his title? Is it captain? Is he captain or?
Yeah, I'm not sure what his title was.
I know she's countess. Maybe he's count.
Yeah, that would kind of make sense if he was like a count or something.
But anyway, he confronts Baron Donati and it's like,
he's
don't see my wife again. I was the one who bought her those earrings in the first place. And I don't know how you ended up buying them, but I bought them for her and had them made for her. He's like, I would advise you never to see my wife again. So Baron Donati breaks things off with Madame de ...
Yeah, and then he kind of breaks off with her, right? He's like, oh, we can't do this anymore. And she's like heartbroken about it.
And he asked her where she got the earrings from at first. And at first she says she told her husband that she got them from her mom's uncle's cousin or something. And then he asked her, where did the earrings really come from? And she said, my mother. And he knows at this point that her husband was the one who had them made for her and gave them to her. So he knows she's lying. And he tells her he's tired of her lying, tired of the scheming, and he doesn't want anything to do with her anymore.
Yeah. It's finally caught up with her. All of this stuff that she's been doing. Because you could tell she was probably getting away with some kind of stuff. Just some cutesy stuff, like the fainting.
I mean, and her husband even admitted, like, all your suitors can sometimes be annoying because she's always being asked to dance by all these different men.
Yeah.
And you can tell they don't love each other. It's just a marriage of probably convenience for both of them.
It's either convenience. There's probably some, because he's a high-ranking military. Maybe she's the one who's rich, right? Actually,
her family, her family could be.
Her family's rich, and he's, it's one of those political kind of things, right? Rich woman, high-ranking military, boom. Yeah.
But he still is like, I have to control her. She can't do anything. So he basically, after she falls ill, we don't know with what, because she just randomly faints at this. After the Baron breaks up with her, she faints, and it's actually real this time. It's not a fake fainting spell. She becomes sick with something, so she's just stuck in her room this whole time, and her husband's like, give me the earrings, and she doesn't want to give them back because that's a reminder of her of the Baron, but she does because he's her husband. He sells them again, and then she still is just sad. She's sick, and the jeweler thinks this is all a game, and he's like, you want to buy the earrings back? And the husband's like, I don't want to see those infernal earrings ever again. And the wife gets up enough energy to have her sheer maid?
Yeah, calls her
nanny.
Nanny, yeah.
She has her take her to the jeweler, and she tells the jeweler, I don't have money right now to pay you, but I'll sell you these different jewels to get the earrings back. She's like, but keep them here because I can't wear them.
Yeah.
So she ultimately gets the earrings back, but she keeps falling more and more ill. And
the situation's really. I don't know if it's ever explicitly said what it is.
They
what
never
she
mentioned what she's
contracted.
sick with. No.
Yeah, but it's it's something that's lethal to her, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, unfortunately.
But apparently it's not contagious because everyone around her's fine, so...
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy. Um, yeah, and then we get this, like, again, another climactic ending where, there's like this confrontation between the two, her husband and the other guy. And they're going to have a duel.
Mm-hmm.
Because the husband feels like he's been wronged. So he's like, I challenge you to a duel. And he accepts. And they don't tell her about it at first, but then, her servant figures it out, and she's like, no, don't do this thing. And it's like, it's too late. It's going to happen. And she's distraught over it. Super distraught.
She insists on being driven to the place where they're having the duel. And the Baron had visited her while she was sick. And she's like, there's no way you can still love me, right? He doesn't say anything, but she's like, right? By the way he's looking at her, you can tell he still loves her. And she's trying to stop this. She's like, my husband will kill you in this duel. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So she's still very ill, but Nanny takes her to where the duel is supposed to be, but she has to run up a hill.
Yeah.
And Nanny's like, don't do it. Don't run. You're sick. And as it cuts to the two men, and there is, I guess, what you call a referee that's like, okay, the offended gets first shot. You get 3 shots only.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the other person's screwed unless your gun misfires.
By the way, we see a couple of scenes of him, the general practicing shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bullseye every time, like right in the heart. They have this thing of like the heart on the person, and he hits the heart every single time.
So there's no way the Baron can survive this unless the husband's gun misfires or something happens or jams or something.
Yeah, but yeah, and then we see, so she hears the gunshot.
Yeah, she's running up the hill. She hears the gunshot. She collapses against a tree, and Nanny runs to her, and she's like, I don't feel good, Nanny. I don't feel good. Yeah. And then Nanny starts running towards the battlefield. The battlefield.
Yeah.
You never see who dies, but you know who died.
She even says, like, oh, I only heard one gunshot. Why did I only hear one gunshot?
Why was there only one gunshot?
Yeah.
But you see her husband was the one that pulled his gun out first.
Yeah.
And and Nanny's running towards him saying, she's dying, she's dying.
Yeah.
And before she died, the woman had placed her earrings on the altar in front of the saint that she prayed to multiple times in the film. And as the film ends, you don't see a funeral or anything. You just see the earrings kind of on a little display thing, and there's a sign that says, a gift from Madame de ...
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because she basically gives them, like, anonymously to this church that she always goes to.
She did give them saying, I'm going to give you these earrings, please spare Donati's life, which didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean,
but a lot of it, she did not survive either.
She did not survive either, yeah. Maybe they met up in heaven. Maybe that's kind of the implication. So what were your thoughts on this film after you saw it?
I thought it was really, really captivating and interesting. Just the way everything unfolded, how so much could happen just from selling a pair of earrings.
Yeah.
I think it was just written beautifully and, I mean, just shot beautifully. And this is a longer film than Letter from an Unknown Woman. It's about 40 minutes longer. But it's just so incredibly well done. I really liked having the backstory, or not really the backstory, but more of the relationship shown between the Baron and Madame de.
Yeah.
Which we never find out her name, because they always hide her name behind like a bouquet of flowers, or it just says ... or something like that. So we never
Somebody
find
doesn't
out.
Finish the sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be like, it's courtesy of Madame de, and then someone else comes and talks.
Yeah.
You never actually hear her last name.
Yeah. Which is kind of a cute sort of part of this, because it's supposed to sort of imply that this is a I mean, she's very rich, but she's every woman in a way. You know, could be anyone.
Yeah. And I also really like the fact that this film does have a couple of funnier moments in it. Unlike Letter from an Unknown Woman, you see her husband is trying to search for the earrings in the first place when she first says she lost them, and he keeps going in and out of the booths at the opera, and the guys have to keep getting up from their seats, and they keep saying, I'm not going to get up if he comes out again, but as soon as he does, they stand up, hold the door open. Mm-hmm. And then the jeweler, his son is upstairs where he does business, and the jeweler keeps saying, grab my gloves, grab my cane, grab my coat, and his son keeps running up and down the stairs like, yes, papa, the whole time. It's not like laugh out loud funny, but it's just little things to make you chuckle during this.
Yeah, it kind of like breaks up the otherwise very dramatic fare that's happening in the film. Yeah. How about the directing of this one? Were there any shots or anything that really stood out to you? Any sequences?
Again, the opening shot is just exquisite.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then the shot of them dancing at all the different places, and it just flows so seamlessly together.
Yeah. I feel like this opening shot is so influential on so many people. I mean, just everything about it just speaks to something that would happen today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that would be shot today. And they did this in whatever this was, like the 52 or something like that when this came out.
Yeah, this was a newer film than Letter from an Unknown Woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing that really draws me to him, is that type of style, and you see that again in some of his other filmmaking, like, and you know, just to say this again, like, it was very hard to do these types of shots at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, it's not like they had the cameras that we have today, where your iPhone is a 4K camera that can pick up like really good light. Those cameras were really large. It took a lot of people to move them like that. It took a lot of rehearsing, and it took a lot of lighting. And so it was a huge chore to do anything like that. And it really gives you a certain kind of feeling about the world that they're in when they have those type of long takes. And that opening shot is just like a perfect example. Like, we see everything about her. The opulence, the style, the beauty, the kind of frivolousness,
mm-hmm.
the carefree attitude. It's all just right there. And, you know, just like, you know, the camera's moving, and then it, you know, moves back to the mirror, and we see her in the mirror, and we, you know, it's like, whoa, she's super beautiful. Yeah, it's just so cool. It's so cool. I love this movie.
It's incredibly well done. And this is one of his films that is on Criterion. They made a special edition of it.
Yeah, I would definitely say check it out. They did a restoration of it. I think a lot of his other, I think some films around this time, it's like Le Plaisir and Lola Montes, and I think there might also be La Ronde. I feel like those films might be on Criterion. So, and those are all like European. I think either French.
Yeah.
I think most of them are French, French and German, and they're very good, very good.
Which, if you want to watch The Earrings of Madame de, it is on HBO Max, if you have HBO Max.
Yeah, so I would definitely say check it out.
I would too.
You know, it's a great film. It's really one of my favorites, and especially like of this kind of a genre, like, you know, romance, or I don't even, where would you quantify this in terms of a genre film, I guess?
I'll say they're probably a mixture of romance and drama.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very heavy on romance, which again, having a male director in this time period focus on romance so heavily, you didn't really see that a lot.
Yeah. Especially like the female-centric romance, right?
Yes.
It's not like there's a guy.
Yeah.
It's like a rich guy, and he's trying to, you know. Yeah, it's all centered on her. And the performances are great. I think she's really good. What's her name? I keep forgetting.
Danielle Darrieux.
Yeah, Danielle Darrieux. She's great. She's great, and she's very beautiful. It's like awesome. This is like the type of role that just like makes a person,
Yeah, and
makes you an icon.
she just encapsulates the character so well, because when she starts the film, she's very much privileged. She's very, I'm this amazing person, like I can do whatever I want. And then as the film goes on, you start to see that crumble more
Yeah.
and more and more. And at the end of the
Yeah.
film, she's like a shell of her former self. She's humble. She just wants to be with the naughty. That's all she wants. She doesn't care about her jewelry anymore, her clothes, anything like that. So you see her gradually becoming more and more humble, but she just, every single mood is just, she does so well capturing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, even like the tragicness of like when she gets sick or whatever, because she's really, the way it comes off, it's like she's kind of in a rut. She's kind of sad from the situation of having, all this stuff kind of, her business aired out in a way. It's kind of what happens. And yeah, she does that really well too. Like at the end when she's like, that part of her character is deflated, but she doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like the air has been taken out of her. It's just she's in a different place.
Yeah. I mean, she acts very down, and she acts like she feels kind of helpless in this situation. You could just feel it radiating off her in her performance.
Yeah, it's excellent. Both of the lead performances in both these films are excellent.
Yes.
Right. They're both very good.
Which I'm sure most people would know Joan Fontaine more than they would Danielle Dario.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I mean, they're both really. Dario, she had a great career actually after this film. I think she's even. I saw some trailer like I don't know if she's still alive, but she was acting all the way up to like a couple years ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I saw her. She was in some French comedy from like 2010. She was in it. I was like, oh, that's great. Good to see she's still working.
I'm going to check out more of her work.
Yeah, she was in a lot of, I was looking too, and it seemed like there was a lot of films she was in like the I'm going to say 30s and 40s. But it seems like they were very rare. It seemed like they were hard to find. Which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it seems like they were rare and they were foreign. And so it's even, it's even harder to find and harder to get. So, but we have this film, so.
And it's a great film.
Yeah. Cool. So any last thoughts about these two films or Max Ophüls in general?
I think these were both fantastic, and I do believe he's made some thriller films, right?
I think so, yeah.
He doesn't just stay in one genre. But I'm excited to watch more of his work. There are currently 2 films of his on HBO Max, which is The Earrings of Madame De and Lola Montez. And I'm excited to check out Lola Montez, and then I'll try to find some of his other work. Hopefully some streaming services will have them. I don't know. Especially because he doesn't seem to be as well known or talked about here in the States.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but that's the case with a lot of foreign directors. Unless they just have a mainstream hit, we just don't talk about them.
Yeah, you have to be like Bergman or Kurosawa or somebody like that,
or even newer like Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah. Chenwood Park.
Or I was about to say that. I was like, wait, sorry. That's the same guy, Old Boy and the Handmaiden.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm probably throwing you off with the.
It's okay. And I mean, even now the Squid Game career, 3 of his films are now on Netflix, which I watched one, Silenced. It is it's based on a true story. It's a very heavy watch, major trigger warnings, but it's an incredible film. Have you watched it?
No, I think I feel like I have that on a watch list.
I think you would really, really love it, but it's a tough watch. But Gong Yu, love him in this movie. But the director is Hwang Dong-hyuk. I'm probably butchering that, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. Ooh, Netflix got that movie. That's really exciting, actually.
Which he had made 4 movies prior to Squid Game. There's only one that they don't have. They have Miss Granny, which is a comedy, I believe, and then The Fortress, which is a historical epic kind of film. But Silence is based on a true story, but it is incredibly sad. I do recommend it, but just know,
Be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared, especially because it's based on a true story, which makes it even harder to watch. But it's just so well done.
Okay, that makes me curious to watch it, especially now that it's on Netflix. Now that I know it's on Netflix, because I have heard of that film.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a list of South Korean films I want to watch. It's probably about a dozen films long. But I mean, it's really cool that guy's like his work is getting pushed out there. Because like he's gonna be big very soon.
Yeah.
Like 100% after Squid Game, he's gonna be big very soon.
I know he said that he's going to direct another film in between Squid Game's release and creating Squid Game Season 2.
Yeah.
So he's going to make another film between those two periods. I believe The Fortress is his most recent film. It came out the 2016, 2018. And then Squid Game, so... But, I mean, I've only seen Squid Game and Silence, but so far, I really like his work. I need to watch the other two films that are on Netflix. I wish they had his other film, the first film he ever made, but I can't remember what it's titled. They say it's also very dark. So...
Yeah, it seems like that's thematically where he likes to go.
And he's good at it, so...
Yeah. So definitely, like we're saying, I would say if anybody likes these films, check out La Ronde, check out La Plaisir, check out Lola Montes. Those are some other films of his that are like in the same wheelhouse as this. They're very good and very stylistically on point to what you'll see in these two films. Cool. All right. I think that's everything. So if you want to check us out, you can see our links below. If you want to follow us on social media, other parts of social media. And Alyssa, you got anything else coming up anytime soon?
I'm on the Gaming Outsider podcast as well, so if you ever want to listen to that, if you're a gamer, we have a lot of fun on the podcast. I'm on there once or twice a month usually, and I also write reviews for their site, so check out thegamingoutsider.com. A little shout out there. But yeah, I mean, I love doing podcasts, and if you ever want me back on here, you just let me know. I will always be on here.
Yeah, we'll do. I always have a great time and some great discussions.
I'd love to do another episode like this where we analyze two films and compare them, and I think it's a really cool idea.
Yeah, this has been really fun. I mean, for me, the fun thing too is like picking out the films to put together.
Yeah, especially watching films that I had never seen before was just really thrilling. So anytime, if you ever have more suggestions, and I would be happy to watch them and then discuss it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll probably definitely do another episode together in the future, which will be really exciting.
Oh yeah, it's always fun. So I mean,
cool. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Check us out.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Yeah, have a good weekend. Thank you.